So welcome everyone for being here tonight. So just a little housekeeping. Please make sure your cell phones are silenced out of courtesy for the candidates. Restrooms are right out this door, down the left on the hallway, right Tina? Yep. Both restrooms are right down there, so in case you have to step out. So good evening, I'm Kate Phelan. I'm the Executive Director of the Greater Westfield Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber and the Westfield News are happy to sponsor tonight's School Committee Candidate Forum in partnership with WSKB Radio and Westfield Community Programming Channel 15, as well as our host, the Westfield Senior Center. Tina, thank you so much for hosting us tonight. Tonight's forum is being recorded and will be on Channel 15 YouTube channel and replayed on Channel 15 prior to the election. So let's meet our candidates vying for 3 seats on the school committee. The incumbents are Raymond Diaz Jr., Diane Mayhew, and Bo Sullivan, and candidate Jeffrey Goslin. Raymond Diaz is not able to join us tonight. Candidates, our rules tonight are as follows. You will each have a 2-minute opening introduction. Hope we'll be doing the time. Each candidate will be asked the same series of questions with up to 3 minutes to respond. We will end with a 3-minute closing statement for each candidate. For the opening remarks, the questions, and closing remarks, I will prompt you for you to respond when it's your turn. Westfield News Editor Hope Tremblay will be keeping time this evening and will hold up the cards indicating how much time you have left, and finally with a stop sign. And she will shout it out too if you go over your time limit, which I don't think you will. I think we'll all be cognizant of your time. So on behalf of the Greater Westfield Chamber of Commerce and Reminder Publishing's Westfield News, I thank the candidates for participating in this very important forum, and we thank the audience for joining us tonight. Please remember to vote on November 5th and exercise your right to participate in your local government. So we will now begin with the questions, actually the opening statements. You will each have 2 minutes, and first up will be Jeffrey Goslin.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce, the Westfield News, and the Senior Center staff for hosting this debate and sponsoring us here tonight. It would be a privilege to serve on the school committee and use my experience as a professional educator and local leader to use my knowledge and skills to move the Westfield schools forward into a new decade of possibilities for our community. I have a lifetime of experience with children and families and public education for over 30 years. I have served as an adjunct faculty member at Westfield State University, a Springfield teacher, and with the support from the Massachusetts Urban Youth Commission, I helped develop and implement an overall plan for the PLUS internship program at the Carson Center. I'm a lifelong resident of Westfield, went to the Westfield schools, graduated from Westfield High School, and I worked for the Northampton Public Schools as an education support professional for nearly a decade now. I presently serve on the Westfield Commission for Citizens with Disabilities as secretary, and I'm an active professional member of the Massachusetts Teachers Association and the Northampton Schools Association of School Employees. I continue to speak at both state and national conventions on the issues impacting public education. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we'll have Diane Mayhew with your opening remarks. Diane.
Thank you. My name is Diane Mayhew, and I'm seeking a re-election for a 4-year term on the Westfield School Committee. I would first like to thank Kate Phelan from the Chamber of Commerce, Hope Tremblay and Fran Smith from the Westfield News for coordinating this forum, and to Tina Gorman from the Senior Center for hosting this event. I was born and raised here in Westfield, attending St. Mary's Schools. I went on to study food service management and worked in that field for many years with the Silers Corporation, both at Noble Hospital and Westfield State College, where I managed the food service program for the commuter cafeteria in Bates Hall. I supervised and evaluated the work of employees and managed a cost-effective program. I also maintained required records, including food production inventory, income and expense, and personnel records, while ensuring that sanitation and safety standards were met. Part of my job was not only interacting with the students, but also with the teachers and the public. I stopped working in order to raise a family and to be a stay-at-home mom. I had various part-time jobs since, but all of them were in the food industry in some capacity. My love of my life, Dennis, my husband, and I have 3 grown children who have all gone through the Westfield Public School system, and all are very successful in their chosen fields, due in large part by the excellent education they received here. My children's education has always been my #1 priority, and I have always been actively involved in their schools by volunteering my time in as many areas as I could, from field trips to fundraising, to room mother, to co-president of the PTO, to name a few. I am also a volunteer through the VIPS program here in Westfield, where myself and my 6-year-old English Springer Spaniel Maggie are certified handler and dog team through the Canine for Kids Pediatric Therapy Unit. Is that stop?
That was stop. Thank you, Diane, for your remarks. Now we will hear from Bo Sullivan. Bo.
Thank you, Kate. I appreciate the invitation here tonight, and I would like to thank Kate and Hope, Tina here at the Senior Center, and also Kenny doesn't get enough credit for what they do in town with WSKB and putting everything on television also. So Kenny, we appreciate you being here tonight, filming this and replaying it later. My name is Bo Sullivan. I have been a member of the Westfield School Committee for 1 year. As of now, I am also, like these two next to me, born and raised in Westfield, born at Noble Hospital, went to Highland Elementary School, South Middle School, and Westfield High School. Moved on to the University of Hartford, which turned out to be the best decision of my life because I met my lovely wife at University of Hartford. She was more than willing to come back to Westfield because she knew what a fun town it was and what a great place it was to raise a family. She saw the Sullivan family have a great time here, and she said, you know what, we can raise our family here too. I'm a father of 2. Leanne, who is a senior at Ithaca College, actually doing an internship in New York City and loving it very much. And my younger daughter, Shannon, is a junior at Providence College, both doing extremely well. Both went through the Westfield public school system and excelled not only in the classroom, outside the classroom, but on the athletic field also. They got the full education for what was offered in the Westfield public schools. Volunteerism has always been big with us, and it was big with me. I currently am the Chief Administrative Officer at the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield, but prior to that I was the president of the club and the board of directors for 9 years. I was a board member for 15 years. I'm on the Jimmy Fund Council of Western Massachusetts. I've done volunteer work for the Y. I've done volunteer work for the Senior Center. I've done volunteer work for the Jimmy Fund. Plenty of organizations, Noble Hospital, plenty of organizations in town. I would like to continue that as a member of the school committee, so please consider me on November 5th. Thanks.
Great, thank you very much. So now we're going to get into the questions, and you will be randomly prompted. So when I ask you to respond, that means it's your turn, okay? So the first question, and you will have up to a 3-minute response. And the first person up, and this is random, even though it's going to be the same process for the introduction. So first up will be Jeff. Jeff, what grade do you give Westfield Public Schools, and why?
I would probably give it, I would have to say a B. I do work in the neighboring community school district, and part of the reason why I ran for school committee, this is my hometown. I would like to see our students excel even further and more progress, being made here. My district where I teach is a top performing public school district. It's on the website. It's an outstanding place to be. And I want to bring that experience that I have, together from another district here. So I would give perhaps a B, a grade of B to Westfield. which is not acceptable for me. I want more. I want to do better. I wouldn't have run for the school committee if I didn't think we could do better for our kids and our teachers and our community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we'll hear from Diane, the same question. What grade do you give Westfield Public Schools and why?
As of today, I would give Westfield Public Schools an A. I think the things that we're doing well, our district has increased the opportunities for our students to be prepared for our competitive workforce while exploring options with hands-on experience both in the elementary, middle, and secondary schools. Under the strong leadership of our Superintendent Zaporowski, we have moved forward in working in collaboration with colleges and the business workforce and all stakeholders, the community groups, including parents and educators, to strengthen and improve our district. Thank you.
You're welcome. The same question to you, Bo. What grade would you give the public schools and why?
I would give the Westfield Public Schools an A also. And the reason I would say that is being so involved, more involved for the last year, but being involved growing up here and going to the public schools, there's lots of great things going on in the Westfield Public Schools. You start with the teachers. They work hard every day, not only in the classroom, but outside the classroom, at home, during the summer. They put in more hours than anybody knows. And the students who pay attention during the classroom time with the teachers, they want to succeed. They want to make themselves better, so they all work hard to get where they want to be. The administration, I get to work hand in hand with, even just the budget process, everything is taken into account. There's not a stone that's not turned over to make sure that the students and the teachers get everything they need to make the education best possible in the classroom. There's other programs going on. Diane mentioned it, and she's a member of the VIPS, the Volunteers in Public Schools. People in the community want to help. They want to make sure the students get what they need to get a better education, to better themselves in life. The Boys and Girls Club is another one. I see both of them up close. They work together to make things happen. If the school department needs something, the club is there. If the club needs something, the school department has always been there to better the children's education. The Business Alliance with the Chamber of Commerce is a big part that's going on in the public schools right now. Businesses are coming into the classroom to help teach kids what's out there after school, what they can expect when they graduate high school and get into the workforce. They know what's going to be available to them. And Westfield State University, taking classes, there's high school students taking classes at Westfield State to get college credit. So if they go to Westfield State after they graduate, they're that far ahead of the game, they can get up to almost a full semester of college credit that they don't pay for. If they're at Westfield High and they go to Westfield State, we get them there. So there's lots of things going on in the public schools. Everybody has a great attitude for it. Everybody works hard for it, and I think it needs to continue. So I would give the public schools an A.
Great, thank you very much. The next question is a two-part question. First up will be Diane. First, what is the most significant struggle in the school department and what's your solution? Second, can you identify an area of success or progress within the school system? And you have up to a 3-minute response. You want me to repeat it? The second question is, can you identify an area of success or progress within the school system? And you have up to 3 minutes.
A significant struggle I think that we have and have had for a while is special education. Finding the funding, finding qualified teachers for that specific area. The solution. It's been very hard for us to find a solution as far as the teachers go, so we've had to outsource a lot of the special ed needs. I'm not sure if the solution is just to keep working and doing. We need to focus more on the resources that we need to fund that particular area. And I think once we find enough funding and enough of employees to fill those positions, I think our special ed area will improve even more than it already has. And identify an area that has been successful. Student growth, I think our numbers, our testing has increased since I've been on the school board in the 8 years, due in large part by the initiatives the superintendent has put in place, and it only continues to get better. I think superintendent has formed an atmosphere that forms from the top down, and the enthusiasm that I see today in the schools and with especially our social emotional area has increased, and I see huge progress being made in that area.
Thank you. Bo, you'll be up next. The first part is, what is the most significant struggle in the school department and what's your solution? And the second part of that question is, can you identify an area of success or progress within the school system? You have up to 3 minutes.
The significant struggle, I keep going back to it, and Diane said too, is special education. Part of that solution with the teachers is making sure that tomorrow, when the House of Representatives votes on the expansion of the education bill, that they vote yes. $1.2 billion for this state over the next 5 years would be huge for the city of Westfield. And most of that money will go to special education teachers, because that is the one line item that we have the most problem with. That is our struggle. The other struggle that I wanted to mention was the buildings themselves. We are in line right now to replace or repair Franklin Avenue School and combine it with Abner Gibbs. Abner Gibbs is more than 100 years old. That one needs to be shut down. There's some students in that neighborhood that can't go to that school because they can't get up to the second floor. So they have to be bused somewhere else. That's a struggle. That needs to stop, and we need to get that school online at Franklin Avenue. How do we do that? Again, this is the state money. We need to do our due diligence, and the city council did by voting for the feasibility study, the $900,000 that was approved a couple weeks ago. That study needs to get done, and we need to move forward on that. But it doesn't end there, because the high schools are in the same shape. There's a building that we're using that was built in the 1930s. It's connected to a building that was built in the 1960s, and 1,200 to 1,500 students go to a building that was built in the early 1970s and has never been touched, except cosmetically. The high schools need to be upgraded. Either a new one, combine the two high schools. There's lots of things thinking outside the box that could happen with this. If they combine them, and then we had the aviation students in front of us last night. We make the whole technical academy and aviation school and get them all jobs when they get out of there. The area of success, I know I've got less than a minute. I go back to the Business Alliance with the Chamber of Commerce and the public schools. Those business leaders coming into the classroom is invaluable to these students, because they are finding out what the real world is like after they leave a classroom. And the other part, I would like to give shout outs to all the volunteers, because there is huge volunteerism in every school in this district. And there's a lot of volunteers that are in the classroom that some of the teachers say, I couldn't do what I do every day if I didn't have a volunteer in my room also. So the ones that are there, great. If there's any more in the audience that want to volunteer for the public schools, be my guest. Thanks.
Great, thank you so much. Jeffrey, we'll go to you now. The first part of the question is, what is the most significant struggle in the Westfield School Department and what's your solution? Second, can you identify an area of success or progress within the school system? And you have up to 3 minutes for your response.
Absolutely. I think it's teacher retention is an issue and a problem. I went on the DESE website recently, that's the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. We have an aging population of teachers that are, at a certain age. If you look, the younger people in college are not going to college to become teachers. That's a problem. We need to motivate our young people to pursue this profession. I think it's somewhere in the ballpark to 20% to 30% of the Westfield teachers are the younger age. Then you've got a group of early in their 40s, and then my group comes along. I won't say that group, but, and then you have a few, 17 teachers I think are 65 and older or something in that ballpark range. We need to retain teaching and staff. It's important, Teaching is a building process. It takes time to learn that. I'm able to do things now in my profession, I'll admit it, that I couldn't probably do even 10 or 15 years ago with the kids and with the students. And that's because of my experience and also my supports that I have where I do work in place. So that all those things combined do make a difference. When I was teaching a course called Schools in the American Culture up at Westfield State College, one of the things I tried to do was to motivate and inspire young people to become teachers and to pursue the profession. I think that's an issue and a thing that we need to correct and fix here in the city of Westfield and get more younger people into the profession. Something we've done well. I do like the fact that Mayor Knappich years ago, he started the Go Green plans for the old high school. He put in new infrastructure and windows and doors and kind of created energy-saving plans that have been in place now for a while. I think the Westfield Public Schools, that's to your credit. You do a lot with recycling, reuse, environmental issues with your students. I've done a lot of reading on that, and I think that's something that Westfield has done well. We need to do more work in that area, but I like some of the Go Green work that's been done. Thank you.
Great, you're welcome. Okay, so the third question, we'll start with a new series of questions. So third question, special education costs continue to rise and many services are being outsourced. How do you envision the schools to provide the best possible education services to students while staying on budget and within the district? Bo, you will be first, and would you like me to read it again? Special education costs continue to rise, and many services are being outsourced. How do you envision the schools to provide the best possible education services to students while staying on budget and within the district?
Well, this has been touched on in the last question with special education. It is a cost. Getting students from Westfield to outside the district, transporting them, we pay for. Keeping teachers in the classroom, if they're a city employee, obviously, we pay for them, they are part of the budget. Now, keeping the cost down, actually, I think has been accomplished. It may not be the ideal situation because some of these teachers and employees are not employed by the city of Westfield, but when we outsource and bring more teachers and more paraprofessionals in to help with the special education needs, we pay the company, and by the way, the company also takes care of their health care. So when you say costs, there's been $250,000 from the school budget given back to the city side of the budget because of health care costs. Now, I would rather have them be employed by us, but when you say the budget problem with it, that is one solution that the administration has come up with, is because we can bring people in, they can teach the students during the day, and they collect their paycheck from somebody else. Again, not the ideal situation. To keep it within budget, I'm going to go back to what I said in the last question. Tomorrow is a huge day in the State House for education. The Senate has already passed this bill. It is now in front of, and the governor has proposed the bill. The Senate has passed it. Tomorrow is the day with the House. It is the final hurdle to get it to a conference committee. So call John Velas, tell him to vote yes for this bill. He has been told before, but if he hears from more people, but $1.2 billion, they finally refigured the formula for education, for public education in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. That formula was written in 1993, 26 years ago, and hadn't been touched until about 6 months ago. So if we can get this formula fixed, this bill passed and signed by the governor, it will help. I'm not going to say it's going to end the problem with special education and cost, because it probably won't, but it will help. It'll help the superintendent and the business manager, the CFO. It will help them keep the budget in balance and keep that line item as best possible for the city of Westfield.
Great, thank you. Next will be Jeffrey Goslin with this question. Special education costs continue to rise and many services are being outsourced. How do you envision the schools to provide the best special education services to students while staying on budget and within the district?
No question, when you outsource, it costs your district a lot more money, oftentimes, to send students out of district. I know that we've had the Angie Holmes House for at-risk youth in the past, and the facility up on Russell Road, and that saved us some dollars. One of the things that my school does well, I'll share with you, for example, programs. We have special programs in place. I work in a program called GOALS. It's called Gaining Opportunity Through Access and Learning. So, in supports, GOALS. These are programs in place, learning disability students, ELP, different types of programs from within the school. And we have supports built in. And what we do, instead of outsourcing, which is creative in Northampton, they're a very creative district, they bring them into us, into our school. So we have like an art therapist, for example, come in and maybe do an hour lesson with the kids, or a music therapist, or some type of person come in for an hour here and there into our school working with our kids. And the teachers and myself and everyone else are all, supporting and providing the supports that students need. There are ways you can be creative and do things like that in your school district. It's just a matter of, approaching them and setting them up and making these types of programs work. So I think that there are cost savings, things you can do with special education. You don't always need to outsource. We do have students, even in my school, that we have to do that with as well, outsourcing. It happens across the board, but there's a lot of work that goes into that before that takes place and that happens. Yep.
Thank you. Diane, same question.
Would you repeat it?
Special education costs continue to rise and many services are being outsourced. How do you envision the schools to provide the best special education services to students while staying on budget and within the district?
When I first got on school committee almost 8 years ago, we had a lot more children that were out of district that we were paying a lot of money to go to other towns to be educated. And over the years, we've been bringing them back into Westfield. Yes, the budget in that area is low. And like Bo said, there is the Education Opportunity Act. For special ed circuit breaker, we're estimated to get $90 million over 4 years. Now that's throughout the state. How much we'll actually get in this district is yet to be seen if we do get that monies. Right now, I believe we are doing a fantastic job at, with the budget that we do have, with educating our special needs children, even though we are outsourcing a lot of the jobs and not having the people ourselves in the district to take advantage of that. I think that in time, I think that we will find people that we won't have to outsource anymore. But I think we're doing a fantastic job with the budget we have and what we have to work with. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So because we're down a candidate, this is wrapping up pretty quickly. So now we actually are going to go to closing statements, closing remarks, closing statements, whatever you want to refer to it as. So, and you have up to 3 minutes. First up will be Jeffrey.
Whose schools are schools? Whose kids are kids? I have been at the forefront of public education for nearly 30 years, starting with the Proposition 2.5 override to the Booster Club sports programs that were cut in the 80s. And I'll bring it on up to question 3, the charter referendum bill that took place just recently. It was question 3 on charter school expansion throughout the state. And I'm very proud of my record on that. I'm running on a record here, so I encourage folks, as they're looking at the candidates this year, to look at a record. One of the things we did do as a school committee at that time, a few years back, is we took a public vote, and we voted down the question 3 charter expansion bill in a public forum setting way. And, you know, that's very rarely done. That's not often done. And even folks that were on the charter school expansion side, in the end, we were able to reach across party line and people with different, you know, various opinions and ideas and get them to come to our side. And you saw what happened. 62% roughly the voters in the state of Massachusetts voted it down. It was a question of unequal funding for schools and charter schools. These are all things that I have done in the past that I'm mentioning to you. But one thing I want to mention is the importance of education. And my grandfather, Mr. Merlo, my great-grandparents are all from Westfield. They lived right here. He had an 8th grade education. He was vice president of the Dexter's Corporation in Windsor Locks, Connecticut. Mr. Merlo, my grandfather, I'm so proud of him. And why? Because he had a vision and a plan. My grandparents taught me, education's good for what you use it for. He traveled the world. When he went into McDonald's on Elm Street in Westfield, he'd go in there and say, clean this place up. They said, why, Mr. Merlo? Because I own half this company, okay? So, I mean, he was quite a figure in my life. And he also, like I said, traveled the world. He played football with El Grasso in the back football fields of Windsor Locks, Connecticut. A role model. So people like that can set a role model with kids. It's so important to have that mentoring person in our communities, as Bo talked about with volunteering, and Mrs. Mayhew did also. These are things that are all critical to our success. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Next up will be Diane. Your closing remarks, Diane? 3 minutes, up to 3 minutes.
I didn't make it last time, so let's see if I can keep it under 3 this time. I have served as Secretary, Chair of Human Resources and Policy Subcommittee, and have sat on Curriculum and Instruction Subcommittees as a member through my 8-year tenure. I have sat as representative as one of our unit negotiation teams and have been a member of various meetings and task forces throughout my tenure to help increase student achievement. I consider myself to be a determined, hardworking, fair-minded person who has no political agenda except to have the opportunity to continue to advocate for the children of the city, and I am willing to continue to spend my time and energy collaborating and working as a team to accomplish this. I believe I can continue to make a strong contribution. I am proud of the direction that our school district is taking and would like to see the direction continue. I am committed to continuing to support the best educational programs for our children. I feel that serving as a member of the school committee is one of the most challenging and rewarding jobs I have ever undertaken. Decisions that are made affect not only the children, but their parents, the school employees, and the economic well-being of our community. It requires time, energy, a willingness to learn about issues affecting our schools, and a passion for a public education system. Westfield has strong schools, and strong schools make strong communities. Current philosophies and methods of educating children are constantly changing. Although we don't need changes for the sake of change, we do need changes that work. As a community, we need to keep up with these trends and changing methods in order for our children to receive the best possible tools for a successful future. The education of our children is a highly personal and highly public one. I believe everyone is a stakeholder in the future of our children, and that is why I would love to continue giving back to the community. Thank you for your support, and I ask for your vote on November 5th. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Bo, closing remarks.
Again, Kate, thank you for moderating this. Tina, thank you for the space. Hope for putting this together with Fran. Kenny for recording it. Hope everybody watches this again on Channel 15. And thank you all for coming. It means a lot because people care. And that's what this is. And by you guys showing up here tonight, you obviously care about the public schools. And I urge you to continue that. To get involved if you could. It would be great. I started on this committee a year ago, not looking to do anything like this. It was a situation where there was a vote, and they picked me to fill out a term a year ago, not knowing if I was going to be sitting in this seat running for 4 years after that. But things have changed. I got on the committee. It's a great committee to work for, by the way. The school committee, everybody is dedicated to making sure the children get the education they deserve and the teachers get the things they need in the classroom to make sure those children are taken care of. That's what the school committee does. They do the hard work, and I think the students are reaping the benefits of that hard work. Some of the things in the past year that I've been involved with, and we've talked about a little bit here, is the budget. It was a bare bones budget, but the biggest part about that was this year's school budget didn't cost the city an extra dime than it did the previous year. We didn't ask for any more money from the city. We didn't get offered any more money either, but we didn't need it. One other thing that is big, I think, in the middle schools is the one-to-one with Chromebooks. Every student in the middle school has his or her own Chromebook. They leave it in the school, but they have it all day with them to do all their work. They go from classroom to classroom with that same Chromebook in their hands. That's something that I would like to see expanded. I know that the proposal right now is to get that up to the intermediate school also. We extended the contract of the superintendent. It may seem small, it may seem like it was easy to do, it wasn't. Most people in town like the superintendent, and we like that we could keep him here. I was on a search committee that just ended last week for Highland School. There's a couple positions open up at Highland School. They asked me to be on the search committee for an assistant principal. So being involved with it has changed my mind to being here and being on the ballot for the next 4 years to represent the city of Westfield on the school committee. So again, I thank everybody that's here tonight. I thank everybody that was involved in putting together tonight. But 2 weeks from tonight is a big day in the city of Westfield and everywhere else around. It's November 5th, and that's Election Day. So I urge everybody here to vote, and I urge everybody here, please, to vote for me for school committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So this concludes tonight's candidate forum for this school committee. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you.